All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about the final Xbox Series X specs. I think I may have said that before, actually, on this show, where I was like, oh, I think we got everything, but the price and the release date, we didn't.
No.
There was a lot more to reveal, and Microsoft did that yesterday. And I'm interested to hear your perspective on this. So today, Sony announced that tomorrow, which is a shame because we can't talk about it, tomorrow they're unveiling the PlayStation 5. It sounds like a deep dive on like the tech, which leads me to believe it was probably going to happen in GDC. GDC gets canceled, and they're like, well, let's just do it anyway, because it is kind of falling right during the week when GDC was supposed to happen.
Certainly suspicious timing.
Yeah. The fact that Microsoft literally blew everything out yesterday. Now all we have left is exact release date and price.
Yeah.
Everything else is known now about Xbox Series X.
And let's be honest, we might not get them this year.
It's possible. You mean the consoles?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is. It's starting to get dicey. And if it is, the quantities are going to be limited. Like, you think trying to get toilet paper is bad. Imagine trying to get a PlayStation 5 in November when they've only manufactured like 700,000 of them. I mean, we could do that. Could happen. Very easily could happen. But Microsoft is like, whatever. It's just going full blast. And yesterday, a series of stuff, mostly done with Digital Foundry, was released. And it's smart. I mean, they're choosing the right partner to do that with.
They're leaders in that space.
And it makes perfect sense. And I think they had done something with Engadget before. Yeah. So I think they're targeting the right publications to do this stuff. So the nuts and bolts of it, basically the tech specs were exactly what we had been saying all along. They really hadn't changed that much. Series X has 4 times the processing power of an Xbox One, and its GPU running at 12 teraflops is twice that of Xbox One X and more than 8 times of the original Xbox One. The console, we already know about the extensive backwards compatibility for it. But the cool thing about it is when the console plays backwards compatible games, they will have HDR. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's a neat trick. Like, they've been doing some really cool stuff with the backwards compatibility without having to touch the code of the original games.
Yep.
And I think they've hit on a really cool feature there.
Now, the one thing that they announced that has people freaking out a bit is the way they're handling external storage. So everybody knows already, it has a hyper-fast SSD drive. One of the other tech demos that they released, actually, was a loading test showing how much faster the Series X loads State of Decay 2 than Xbox One X.
And it does.
And it, like big-time change.
Yeah, like it's a good game for that.
That's a perfect game for that because it's completely unoptimized, and in all honesty, the code is kind of crap. So that was a good example to use, and it is stark, the difference. However, there are drawbacks that come with using an SSD, and I think we probably could have figured this out before on our own if we had thought about it, but I didn't. And so now it's come out that because it uses an SSD drive, and because they've known all along it was going to use an SSD drive, the way the games are built and the way the games work, they're basically using the SSD drive as extra memory while the game is running. And therefore, and there's fancy terminology for it.
You have to run...
I'm sure somebody on YouTube is going to blow me out for not using the exact term for it, but
basically you have to use that drive to run a Series X game because they're going to expect that kind of performance to run properly.
Yep, which means that you cannot use your existing mechanical external hard drive for Xbox Series X games. Now, they will work for backwards compatible games. So if you have a big library of old Xbox games and you really enjoy going back and playing those, you can put those on the drive, and then you can play them from that drive. You can even put Series X games on the drive. You just can't play them from the drive. You can transfer them from the drive to your SSD. But
and if you have slow internet, that's a good thing.
Right. It's a really good thing. The issue really is that because of this, it is creating its own proprietary external storage for Xbox Series X that are basically these little cartridges. So that slot that's on the back of the Xbox Series X that on the one episode we're like, what's that for? And people were asking us what it was for, and we were like, we don't really know. Well, now we know what it's for. It's for those cards.
It's a memory card slot.
It's a memory card slot. And so there are memory cards for Xbox Series
X. Pretty much.
The last console or platform to have that was the Vita. All I remember about that was the price fixing and the price gouging on those
are
cards.
very overpriced. They're still overpriced.
They're still insanely expensive. I bought one and never bought another one. So right now,
a couple of years ago, I went back on because I was, when I moved, I had all my stuff out and I looked at saw all my games again. I'm like, oh, I wonder if they have better, because I had a mid-size card for that because I didn't want to spend all the money on it. And I was like, oh, I bet I could get one cheap. No, you cannot. Like, those things were made for a brief amount of time by Sony and only Sony for that thing and like a couple other devices, and that price has not dropped at all.
And I think people are a little concerned that it may be a somewhat similar case. My hope, obviously, is that Microsoft licenses it out to third parties, so that third parties can create cheaper versions of it.
That seems unlikely, but I don't know what these things are going to cost, or we don't know how big they are. Like, the word is that the internal on the system is a terabyte, which is not nothing.
Yeah.
I
have it on my PS4 Pro, and it's full already.
Oh, yeah.
It happens.
But, I don't know. My hope would be these things would be like terabyte, about $100-$150.
So right now, and look, this is apples and oranges, but just to give you a ballpark idea, right now a 1 terabyte external SSD hard drive is about $220. Do you think, even if your pricing ends up accurate and it's $100 for a terabyte, do you think people are going to go for that?
I don't know if you have a choice, really.
Yeah.
I'm going to need more than 1 terabyte of space on these things, especially because of how, the games are going to get bigger.
Yeah.
So
4K, the textures, they're going to be, look at already at Modern Warfare. It's 200 gigs. It's been out for like 2 months. It's 200 gigs.
That's
a fifth of your
hard
terabyte.
Drive. And that's even more because you're still going to have the OS in there.
Yeah.
So
yeah. You're not getting the full
you're not
terabyte.
getting the full terabyte. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. So HDR for backwards compatibility, that's a pretty cool feature. They have tweaked the controller a little bit, not much, but a lot of it I think takes cues from the Xbox Elite Series 2 controller.
Which is good.
It's not on that level. Don't get me wrong. And actually, I just reviewed that controller on SIFTD HQ this morning.
Have they said anything about using those on the new system?
What,
the Elites?
Oh, they're fine. Yeah, they're going to work fine. They'd be idiots.
Yeah.
Dude, $180 controller better work on everything. Yeah. And it does. It
better
works.
work on my microwave.
Seriously, it better work on everything. And it does. They've done a really good job of making sure that works with all their platforms.
Because I don't intend to switch to the new controller if I don't have to.
Yeah. Well, why would you?
Yeah.
No, the Elites are still better than the new controller. It just added a couple things. So it changed a lot for comfort. So the bumpers on the controllers have been rounded, which some people may not complain about, but I noticed that they were annoying after a while on the old Xbox One controller, so I appreciate that. They also have a brand new technology in them called, and I don't know if this is in the series or in the Elite controllers, called Dynamic Latency Input, or DLI. And basically, it matches inputs to what is happening on screen, resulting in milliseconds shaved off of controller response time. That's the official verbiage from Microsoft. Whatever the hell that means. A couple other things.
Means esports.
Pretty much, yeah. That's it. Or even for fighting games if you want an advantage or whatever.
If you're using a controller for that for some reason.
Yeah. Some people do.
Get me an arcade stick with that in it.
Yeah. They reduced the space for the triggers. And so it looks like the carry time is a little less, which is something that you can customize on the Elite controllers.
Yeah. I think you can cut that in half if you want.
You can, yeah. And I don't know if they're going to allow you to do that here, but it looks like there's going to be a shorter pull. And then the final new feature of the controller is that the texturing is different. And that is one thing I did notice about the Elites, is that it has the rubber grip all the way around. And then the Xbox One controllers just have the grip on the side. Yeah.
I like how the Elite does it way better.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. The Elite's an amazing controller. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, it's like holding a really good basketball.
Yeah. Somebody on the site called it the Rolls Royce of controllers. Absolutely on the money accurate. They're amazing, but they're $180. So.
Yeah, they better be for what they cost.
Exactly. And velocity architecture is actually the terminology for why you cannot use the mechanical external drives for Series X games.
Okay.
Yeah. Velocity architecture allows game storage to become additional memory.
Those are big words to say blast processing.
It allows storage to become additional memory while also saving CPU overhead and efficiently loading assets like textures. Yeah.
So basically it does what they said the cloud would do this gen.
Yeah. Pretty much.
But it probably actually does it.
It probably actually does it this time because you're not relying on the interwebs. And then one of the other things that they showed, one of the new features was quick resume. They did a tech demo of that. They put out a separate video for that we have in our B-roll. And that's a pretty handy little feature.
Yeah.
I mean, you can suspend up to like 4 games at once and then just go back to them whenever you want.
Like that.
That's sweet. No more like going back to the dashboard, hitting the start button, selecting close app, then going and selecting the app that you want, and then waiting for that to load up.
Yeah, I mean, at least like the Xbox One does. If you let it turn off, and then you turn it right back on, it will remember where you were.
Yeah, but just for one game.
Just for a little bit.
Yeah,
only for one game.
Yeah.
So yeah, and as someone who does sometimes forget the system is on and let
I do it all the time.
Yeah, that would be a handy feature for me.
Yep. Another thing we should mention about the external memory cartridges is that it includes a heat sink to protect the drive from overheating. And that's really the big reason why you can't just use any hard drive into that port, is because it'll overheat. It's not made for that port.
Right.
So you need something with a heat sink to dissipate some of the heat. Also, a Seagate 1 terabyte external right now costs $215. So I think your estimate of $100 might be a little on the low end.
Unless Microsoft is just willing to eat some of it.
I mean, it's eating everything right now. I mean, it's letting people access its first party. I mean, people are going to be able to play Bleeding Edge and Ori and the Will of the Wisps for like $9.
Yep.
I mean, it's eating costs left and right. So it would not surprise me if Microsoft bit the bullet. It knows more than anyone how important getting out of the gate strong is. And I think
they sure didn't this gen.
No. And I think it would be smart for them to bite the bullet in some ways and lose some revenue off the top to build that install base.
And also you have the lesson of the Vita in front of you. So
I mean, that didn't teach them not to do this. They didn't have a choice, I guess.
I mean, I don't mind that so much as, I don't mind having to buy a separate memory thing for the Vita, except the problems with the Vita was it had nothing internally.
Yeah.
Like, it had
you had to have
barely enough for one game.
Yeah.
And the price on those cards was crazy.
Yeah.
It was,
you're right. That is a big, big difference between.
Like, if you need those
Series
special
X and
proprietary
Vita.
things with a heat sink to get this thing to work properly to expand the memory, fine. But I will forgive a lot if you price it at a reasonable level and not just be like, well, if you want more, screw you, like Sony did.
Yep. So that's it. There's nothing left to the imagination for Series X.
Also, it is it's as tall as 2 GameCubes stacked on top of each other with the Game Boy Advance thing.
The player. The Game Boy player on the bottom.
So 2 of those. That's a hefty beast.
Well, I don't know if you noticed, but the Game Boy player on the GameCube turns it into a cube.
Into an actual cube.
Yeah, because before that it's actually oblong.
Yeah.
And then when you stack it, then it really is a cube.
Which indicates that that was always the plan.
Right. Yeah. All along. And backwards compatibility. That's what it was. They're like, we're going to make it backwards compatible with one of our
I still have it. I mean, I've had that thing on my GameCube so long that I forget it's not part of the GameCube.
Yeah. But a lot of people never had it. Yeah.
It's really good.
It is. It still works great.
Yeah.
Even though my drive died on my GameCube, that still works. Part of my GameCube still works.
Solid state.
Exactly. Yeah, because there's no moving parts on it other than the things you use to screw it into the bottom. So that's it. There's nothing left to the imagination for Xbox Series X.
Except the release date.
Price and release date. That's it. And I think we're all assuming 500 at this point. Probably late October,
early November, or next spring,
or never.
Who knows? I mean, manufacturing issues because of factory shutdowns from the virus is going to be a real factor moving forward, especially if concerns about it continue into July and August, as Trump suggested, which I don't think he means that you're going to be locked down till July or August, but it's going to remain a social concern at least that long.
Yeah, I mean, they may still be banning like large gatherings at that point. Who knows? It's insane.
Could be a long time before we go to Disneyland again, folks.
Or anywhere, for that matter.
Buckle up.
I'm so glad that all these games are coming out. Like, it's going to save me. It's going to save a lot of people. It may get some people into gaming, actually.
I admit now I really wish Cyberpunk hadn't slipped.
Yep. How perfect would it have been?
Yeah.
Yep, to just grind through that game.
Oh, you know what I could use right now? A dystopia.
Well,
I thought about replaying Last of Us before Last of Us 2, but I'm like, man, that might be too on the nose.
Yeah.
I don't know.